and we're in pre-show and still working out some details. If you're watching us live, you're watching us only on Facebook, YouTube, only on YouTube, because Facebook has just not done a good job today. All we've got is black video from them. So they are not on our happy list. Okay, looks like YouTube is good. And Michael Graves is still not there. Ken is still. Ken, can you hear me? You're still sending me 1080. You're probably on a browser, or are you on a?
I can hear you, but I thought I set to. I'm on vMix.
Okay.
So I adjust external output setting.
No, just right-click the vMix call input, and that'll give you a menu where you can determine what video you're sending me. Yeah, I appreciate y'all's patience on this one. Yeah, Dave, it still says both you and Hamiet are still sending me 1080.
I switched to 720 though.
Okay. All right. Oh, okay.
Same here, and it says it's ticked 720 on mine as well.
Tick 720. All right. I tell you what, if you two guys wouldn't mind dropping the call and then coming back in, let's see if that doesn't jigger it back to 720.
Which two guys?
Hamiet and Dave.
Okay.
All right. And Ron, it looks like your aspect ratio is spread. Are you on a 4:3 aspect resolution camera? That may be it. If you've tried to spread it to widescreen. Let's see, what do we got here? Yeah, we're gonna let's see, where is that? We're going to stop the flag motion in the background and see if that doesn't help some. And vMix says, hey, you're not streaming anymore to Facebook and YouTube. Stop. Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, Tom, I did a reconnect on mine, and it seems to have come up more to real time instead of that big lag I was seeing in it earlier.
Okay.
I'm going to do the same thing right now because I'm way behind my return video.
Okay. Yeah, Mike,
Yeah, just
you
right-click
are.
and say reconnect.
Mike is at 21,610 milliseconds. Dave, you're up to 173 milliseconds. So that's good.
All right.
Tom Boudreau is at 400 milliseconds, which is, Ryan's at 500, Ron's at 170, Ken's at 170, Ken's back to 720 now. Looks like everybody's at 720 except Tom, who's at 480. And Michael, do we have video from you? Do we have audio from you, Michael?
I think you might. I don't know about
Michael
audio.
Graves? Yes, we have
Hello.
video.
Yeah.
Good. All
I had to
right.
drop it to 720.
Now, I want y'all to pay special attention to Tom Boudreau's necktie. Tom's in the top right-hand corner. And Tom has earned that necktie the old-fashioned way. He got hit from behind and flipped his car. How many times did you flip, Tom?
I passed out, but it had to be 3
Your mic's not on.
because I crossed 3 lanes of traffic.
Wow.
Yeah. If you're his friend on Facebook, you'll
I
see a
hear a
picture
little
of this.
bit of him
Okay.
in the left.
You hear me
hand.
There he is. Now we got you, Tom.
You hear my audio now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Yeah, after I was hit, I blacked out, and I had to flip 3 to 5 lanes, so several times. We ended up upside down. We were very blessed. I've got a neck injury that they hope will be cured just with meds and therapy. Hopefully no surgery. I sound like I'm too loud.
No,
Is
you're
that
not.
better level?
Yeah, you're good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
So anyway, God is great.
Well, and you're a tough old bird, let me tell you. Gee whiz. I'm impressed. I'd be
That
whining
happened
like
Saturday night.
a baby. All right, well, it looks like, let's
Doesn't
see.
help to whine. I'm telling myself not pain.
Okay, looks like everybody's sending 720 except Tom's at 480 and Ryan, who's probably, Ryan, are you on a laptop? Are you running vMix or are you on a browser?
No, all I had was my book, so I'm on a Chrome browser on vMix all.
Okay, okay. So I'm watching his resolution fluctuate as his bandwidth fluctuates. All right, good deal. Good deal. So let's see if we can't make a show out of this. I haven't been following the chat yet, but it looks like we've got a lot of folks there. Oh my goodness, Tommy's here, Marie and Daniel and Chris and Otis and Michael and Jerome and Jan and Chuck and Chris, and the list goes on and on. Guy Cool, now that's a name I want. Yeah, we're not going to be putting the chat up today because we just don't have any space. Golly gee. And I didn't intend to start the show this way, but you know, what the heck? It's an idiot show. What do you expect? I mean, if you don't like it, you can get your money back. Tommy says he wants his money back on this show. So there. Facebook seems to be down. I tried streaming to Facebook probably about 20 minutes ago, and it never took. So we've dropped the Facebook screen. If you are, if you happen to be having Facebook up and you want to put a little comment there, I put a comment before, but you can put a comment saying, "Hey, there is no Facebook stream for Streaming Idiots today." For those of you watching, I want to introduce my guests. Let's see. Somebody says that the stream is, that's Marie. Pay no attention to Marie. She'll try to get you with all these, you have no audio kind of tricks. Top left-hand corner is Dave. Hamlet is top center. Tom is top right. Michael is middle left. Mike is in the center of the Brady Bunch 9 up. Ryan is to the right. Ron is bottom left. Ken is bottom center, and I am bottom right. And actually, had we had one more caller, if we had had one more caller, we would have tried to take in a caller from a second PC and seen how that affected the mix minus. I've been needing to do that, but I didn't have time to do that today. So let me get up. Oh my gosh, Hamlet is showing us the feed that he's seeing, which has got to be just going to infinity. Let me get a quick comment from you guys. If you've used vMix call before, and what are you experiencing with this call right now? Let's start with Dave. We'll kind of do it in the order that I just called out. Dave, have you used vMix call before, and how is this experience with all these folks on it compared to your other types?
I've used it a few times just for small 2 or 3 person connections, but I mean, this isn't bad. I mean, you know, you're having to send us back a little bit lesser of a feed to be able to handle it on your end, but I think it's completely acceptable to use in a conferencing type scenario or a small audience, small gathering.
Okay. Okay. Hamiet, what about you? What do you think? Have you used vMix call before, and how does this experience compare?
Well, I've
Only
tried to use it a couple
Zoom.
of times, and only a few times that I've been lucky. So one of the major issues that I have is the guest will hear me, but I will never hear them. So it's more of an audio issue, not a video.
Okay. So
But when
So
it works really well.
you can hear the guest, but the guest can't hear you?
No, the guest can hear me, but I can't hear the guest.
You can't hear the guest. Okay, all right. That's actually a pretty common complaint. Let's go through the rest of everybody, and then we'll take a look at that one. Tom, what's your experience been with vMix Call?
I used it once at a medical presentation, worked fine. Had a lady in an airport in Dallas, couldn't get to Lafayette. Worked excellent. She understood it. It worked. I've used Zoom mostly. For some reason, out just in the years before vCall. But I'm looking forward to using it at this upcoming event. I can cut and I'm doing this 5-day event coming up July 14th. If I don't end up in a hospital with my neck. So I'm looking forward to using it again soon.
Okay, very good. Michael, what about you?
I have only used it to tinker with to this point, but I'm looking forward to it. It's been quite stable, and I've been testing with people who are in Europe in several locations. It's always constrained by bandwidth. My issue, that is the thing I don't know very much about, is all the audio routing, because I typically do a lot of audio outside of vMix, and this requires that you do the audio inside vMix.
Right. Yeah, vMix actually creates a custom mix minus for each caller, so I didn't have to do any of that. For you guys, we'd be 3 hours late getting started if I had to do a custom mix minus for you guys. Mike, what about you? What's your experience been?
I've used it several times, Tom. I would say. I don't know,
Mike, your audio's a little low.
maybe two. Oh, let me bring my mic a little closer. Is that any better?
Oh yeah, there we go.
Is that any better? Okay. I've used it. I've got an air conditioner on, so I'm sure that's not helping. But I've used it a couple dozen times. I use it for a monthly talk show that I stream, and it's great. Very reliable, very stable. Every once in a while, one of the guests can't come in by Firefox, so I have them come in by Chrome. Maybe they don't have the latest version of Firefox. I'm not quite sure why. But it works really well, and sometimes I use it in combination with a Zoom caller, especially if the Zoom caller is presenting, let's say, a PowerPoint. So I have the virtual audio cables installed, and I send the audio to the Zoom caller, but then I have the person who's not presenting, but just joining. I have them come in by vMix Call because it's easier and it's rock solid.
Gotcha. Very good. Ryan, can you hear us? What about your experience with vMix Call?
Hey, I can hear you great. So far so good. I don't use it very often because I am a little bit constrained in bandwidth being in the area that I live in. Right now, I'm actually outside of Washington, D.C. because we're traveling to the holiday, so that's why you see the dogs behind me, and the girlfriend's kind enough. Katie, hi. Oh, she's eating a sandwich. She's going to kill me that we just made it on YouTube with
Hey, I can hear you now, Tom.
I mean, I think it really depends on the bandwidth, and so I tend to always stream out off of my LiveView Solo with a bonded connection. So sometimes I just don't have the bandwidth to bring people in remotely.
Gotcha. Okay, Ron, have you got your audio difficulty straightened out? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys loud and clear.
Okay, very good. Tell me about your experience with vMix Call.
Oh, well, I've done, I did one interview with a basketball athlete up in Prattville, Alabama, and then myself and 3 other guys. One guy was in Northwest Florida, one was in Daphne, I was in Mobile, and somebody else was in another location in Mobile, and I put all of us on there at one time.
That's awesome. Exactly what it was intended for. Yep. Ken, where are you? Goodness gracious. And tell me about your experience with vMix Call. No audio there, Ken. Ken's like, there's nothing I have to say that can add anything to what anybody else said. I got you. Okay, well, let me make sure I didn't mute you on this end. Holy cow. No.
How's this?
There we go. There we go. All right.
Okay, I'm sitting at my front yard enjoying the wonderful weather today in California. Although I've played around with Zoom over with Dave Edwards, this is my first time using vMix call.
Really? Oh, wow. I mean, you are just like the super streamer. In fact, you're in contention for the Streaming Idiots 2019 Streamer of the Year award. But now that you say you haven't used vMix Call, that probably drops you to the bottom of the list for the nominees.
Yeah, I'm going to be way below Tommy Ellis.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Boy, that is going out into the red light district now, isn't it?
I don't have a studio. All I do is everything on the road.
Yes, yes. You and Rich are road warriors, indeed. So, how many?
You gonna go live today?
We're live right now.
I didn't see it on Facebook.
No, Facebook's not working. Facebook is down all across the
YouTube.
Eastern Shore. Go to the easternshorebroadcasting.com page and click the Watch Live tab. That should be working.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Ken's showing it off on his screen right there. There it is. So it's working there. How many of you guys have done live streams that you've gotten paid for? Let's just get a show of hands. You've been paid to do a live stream. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and Tom's on it. Oh, Tom's 6. Okay. And Dave, you've never been paid? I never sent you a check. Oh golly, I probably was supposed to send Dave a check and didn't do it. Okay. How many of you have been using vMix for more than a year? Raise your hand. More than a year. Yeah, Mike, raise your hand. Ryan, raise your hand. We know you've been using vMix more than a year. No, not more than a year? All right, keep your hands up.
Now I started off with Sling Studio.
Okay. More than 2 years. More than 3 years. More than 4 years.
3 years.
More than 5 years. More than 6 years. Dave, that's awesome. 8 years. Holy cow. Oh, 7 years. All right.
The pioneer.
The pioneer. Yeah, that's right. Boy, that was back at like vMix 3, Dave. That's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. But Dave knows a lot about a lot of stuff. Just ask him. Just ask him. And he also has a banana
And he gives
costume
good
that
answers.
is gathering dust. We need to see that again sometime soon. Let's see if we've got any comments from the chat room. Jan says he's been using
Tom, I have
vMix
a
since
question.
version 16. Yes, who has a question? All right, fire
I have
away.
a question. We all downscaled our return bandwidth to you, those of us that are using vMix. We started out at 1080 and then lowered to 720. I'm curious, was that tied to your home internet download bandwidth limitation, or any idea?
That's a really good question. Here in the studio, I have got a download of 100 megs and an upload of 20, and that's pretty consistently. So I'm uploading to each one of you 8 guys about 400K each. So that's about 3.2 of my 20 up. I was sending Facebook 2 streams at 1.5, but I killed those because they just weren't, Facebook wasn't working. And then I'm sending YouTube 4.5. So I'm using about, let's call it just about 8 megabits per second upload of my 20. So I've still got some good headroom there. On the download, with 100 megs download, Mike, you know, I figured I could handle everything you guys could send, but somewhere in the process, I'm not sure where, it was overwhelming something. Maybe it was my router, maybe it was my switch. You know, Dave and Michael were up into the 20 and 30,000 millisecond range in latency, which indicates that there was, you know, probably a network issue somewhere. And I blame myself first. I'm certainly not a network pro. I'm looking at the stats for you guys right now, and looking at video latency. Dave's about 200. Hamiat is about 200. Tom's about 250. Michael's about 400. Mike, you're about 175. Ryan's about 300. Ron's at about 400. And Ken's at about 350. So you can see there's some variation there. And obviously those numbers are jumping continually. The person that seems to have the lowest latency consistently, of course, is Dave. You know, Dave's the one that drops down into the low hundreds. And that's probably just because he lives in California and it's fixing to slide off into the ocean any day now. So, yeah, hold on tight and a life raft. So that's a good question. You know, Mike, it's one of those things, the only way to test it is to load it up and have, you know, 8 friends that don't mind sitting down and having lunch with you and seeing what's going to work. Anytime you change your physical situation, that is, you know, you go from this office to another office, or use a different configuration on your internet, you know, that can change everything. Right now, we're going, it's AT&T, the old style DSL, but they were able to pump it up to 100 down, 20 up. It's coming into the AT&T router. From there, it's going to a gigabit switch. So the switch is handling the production from this PC that I'm at right now, and sending an NDI output at about 100 megs to a second PC that's right next to me that's doing the streaming and recording. The second PC is running at about 15, 20, 22% CPU, and that's an i3 processor, so not a lot of horsepower there, 16 gigs of RAM. The system that's doing the production is an i7, the old 2600 K chip, boosted to about overclocked to about 4K, and it's at about, CPU is about 70%. And so that may have been really a limiting factor, is that I just wasn't able to process the higher resolution video on this grossly underpowered machine. I would love, frankly, I'd love to take. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you didn't happen to notice your CPU or GPU levels when we were all sending you full bandwidth? Did you, by chance?
I glanced at it and I saw an 80, and that's when I said I need to do something differently, because, you know, frankly, I think anything over 70 is too much. I'd rather see things in the 60s. Heck, I'd rather see them in the teens. But, you know, realistically, it's a danger zone in my world when you get above 70. So current CPU on the main system is 65. The GPU is 100%. So it's overloaded, but it's only a GTX 1050 Ti with maybe 2 gigs of RAM, so it's not a very powerful card. I'd love to fire this up on one of my customers' machines. Isn't that funny? You know, I build all this beautiful equipment for other people, but I'm using just cast-off stuff here in the shop. I mean, this PC is in dog years. It should have retired 20 years ago. Anyway, Good question, Mike. Other questions? And let's see if we've got some questions here in the chat.
I have an audio question.
All right, fire away.
How do you troubleshoot the audio when you're using a vMix call when something goes wrong? Where do you look at?
I'll give you my answer, and then some of these guys can probably chime in too. The first place I look is the audio mixer section in vMix. You remember whenever you add a vMix call input, it creates an input in the input section, but it also creates an audio input in the audio mixer section. And on that audio input, you have a series of buttons. And my least favorite button in the whole world is a button that has two arrows pointing sideways. That's the blow your mind button. That's the button that makes everything break, I think. I would love it if Martin Sinclair would just kill the button and throw it away. It basically, that button's purpose is to automatically turn the audio off and on whenever that input is in output. So for example, let's say you had an input that you only wanted to hear the audio when that input was active, like maybe at the camera down at the edge of a racetrack and the cars are coming around the curve. But once the cars are done and you're off that camera, you don't want any audio from that camera again. That's where that follow button comes into play. But with vMix call, if your active if your guest is not in output somehow, then their audio is off. You can't hear them. So if you have them in preview and then you've got something else in output, like maybe a PDF file or a graphic or something like that you're trying to do a screen share with, they'll be muted. So the best bet is to turn that little arrow button off, and right below it is a button that has a speaker icon in it, and that button will control that guest's audio on and off. And in fact, I've got a button here on my handy dandy X Keys 80 that will kill all of your audio at one point. I press one button and it turns everybody's audio off. I press the button again, it turns everybody but Dave back on. It's an amazing button. How it knows and it doesn't like Dave, I don't know. I don't get it, but yep, that's it. But that's the quick and dirty from my perspective. That's where I would look if you're not getting audio from a guest. If you can't hear the guest's audio, that's probably what's happening. Anybody else have an idea on that one?
I've had a couple of experiences.
I got a question for you, Tom.
Hang on a second, Tom. Mike's giving us the answer. Mike, we need more audio from you.
Can you hear me, Tom?
That's better.
Are you getting my audio now?
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes if the guest, when they join by Chrome browser or Firefox browser, if they haven't selected, allowed the audio to be used, that can be an issue. So they need to be sure, and also they need to be using the latest version of Chrome and Firefox. So sometimes I'll ask them to make sure they're using the latest version, and to make sure that they've allowed the microphone to be used. And I'm not sure if the microphone can be simultaneously used with another program. So if they're using it with another program, like let's say Skype, I'm not sure if it can be shared and be used with vMix call. And then one time, I'll just give one other example. One time I had some vMix guests sitting in a conference room, and they were using the overhead monitors to monitor the return feed that I was sending them, but those return monitors also had speakers on them, and we were getting a loop because their microphone was picking up the return audio from me. So that's something to be aware of as well if you're hearing a loop, that they really should be wearing earphones. So that's just been my experience.
Great input, Mike. In fact, I look across the board right now and I see everybody has got some sort of ear piece in, and that is the best way to do it. That way it doesn't spill over into the microphone. Tom, what was your question?
No, I was just going to comment that analyze the person on the other end's setup, Chrome, microphone, feedback. That can be an early and first problem to indicate.
Very good, indeed. Indeed, and yeah, sometimes it may be on the vMix end, sometimes it may be on the guest end. That was a great point, Mike and Tom. Other questions from you guys? Let's see if we have questions here in the chat. Jan is in the chat bragging that
One
he has
question, Joe.
an old Xeon system that can take 6 times 1080p 40 and 4 replay and still have render times under 12 milliseconds. That's pretty amazing. My render times right now are right at about 60 or 70 milliseconds. So that's pretty high. Somebody have a comment?
Yeah, Tom, it's Ron.
Yes, Ron.
Now, I noticed one of the, I'm trying to see who that is at the top, the second block up top. I noticed he has that, those two guys got those backgrounds. I was trying to put it on there before we got onto this call, but I couldn't get it. I got a green screen behind me. I was trying to do it, on the fly.
Yeah, I noticed you've got a chroma key going, and basically, in order to do that, and Dave and Hamlet, I won't speak for you guys, but the way we do it is that we'll start with the background and we build on top of that. And so the camera image becomes one of the multi-views that's built on top of the moving background. And so if you notice, behind all of us is an American flag, which I guess apparently started moving again on its own somehow. And it, let's see if we can stop it. There we go. And it was the very first input that I used, the flag video, and then all the other, everybody else's boxes stacked on top of that. For example, Dave was multi-view number 1, Hamiet was multi-view 2, Tom 3, etc., with me being multi-view number 9, and I have one multi-view left over. So multi-view is a really, really powerful thing. Good question.
Gotcha.
Let's see other questions here. Tim Trott says that Ron Wallace has it together with a spinning logo and a lower thirds title. So good job, Ron. Indeed. There you go.
Yeah, I had read a tutorial and I was able to do that spinning cube. It was very informational.
All right. Let's see. Let's look through some of the other questions here. A lot of them we were already answering. Dave, apparently John Thompson thinks that you are independently wealthy. Let's see. Tim says I'm the only
Tom,
one
just
with
one
bad
thing.
lighting. Yes, fire away.
The one thing, just coming from an audio background, for church and stuff, but a wireless in-ear monitor are great. And Galaxy Audio makes one relatively inexpensive, and so that you can route. I'm like many of the other guys. I mix my audio in a separate mixing port, a Behringer X32, or even the new Rodecaster Pro is pretty awesome. But being able to send that out through a wireless in-ear monitor is a handy tool to have at $299. And it doesn't need to be fantastic. It doesn't even need to do stereo. But just coming from church where every musician has an in-ear monitor, so it's a quick, easy way to get your headphones when you have a show.
And Ryan, those are pretty much no latency too, aren't they?
Yeah, they're darn near real time.
Yeah. So it's not like Bluetooth where you've got to wait 5 or 10 seconds to hear anything. Yeah. Yep. That's a good point.
What I have in right now is Opera Elite 65Ts, and I think they sound probably pretty bad. I refuse to use them for phone calls, so that's all I had on the road trip.
Gotcha. Good comment. Good comment. Let's see, going back to the comments on vMix, Jan suggests always using a Chrome browser. And in fact, Martin Sinclair has echoed that, or probably said it first, which is probably where Jan got it. But, Martin said that he really did build vMix Call around the Chrome browser and the way that WebRTC is implemented there. All right, let's see. Other questions? All right, I want to do a test here of the fact that vMix Call is full duplex. And Mike says, that's my cue to leave. No, just teasing. The difference between full duplex and half duplex is half duplex means that when Dave and I are on a call together, and I disagree with Dave, and Dave disagrees with me, whichever ones of us happen to talk first or loudest is the only one that the audience hears, because there's only one channel that's open. He's got half of a channel, I've got the other half of the channel, and that's a very simplistic explanation. But basically, only one of those channels can be heard at the same time. vMix Call is full duplex, which means that each one of the 8 of you can talk at the very same time that I talk, and the guests at home can hear all 9 of us simultaneously. So I'd like Dave to start out, and Dave, if you would sing the note of E, we'll all sing in behind you. I'm teasing.
That's a very, very low E I started with. You couldn't even hear it.
That's right. You couldn't hear it. But no, Dave, if you would just start counting, and then
Well, I can talk
Ham
about
you.
this outage top 10 here for week 27. Looks like Instagram is in the dumper here, along with Facebook, Spectrum, Comcast, whatever that other one is there. I guess that's WhatsApp, and Verizon, AT&T, WOW, whatever that is, Xbox Live, and CenturyLink. Those are the top 10 outages for this week. So I think, Tom, you might have been affected by some kind of outage overflow. When you start looking at the heat maps, you see a lot of effects down in the southeast. So
Yeah.
might be what knocked you out today.
Yeah. Well, I'll take any excuse, no doubt about that. All right. Well, Dave, you're not very good at following instructions.
Well, I was talking before you got started there, Tom. So you got to hurry up with your instructions.
Well, let's try this again. Dave, I want you to start talking, and then Hamiet, if you could start talking, and then Tom, if you can start talking, and then Michael, and then Mike, and Ryan, and Ron, and Ken, and then I'll join in at the very end. And so by the time I join in, all 9 of us will be talking at the same time. And I want the folks watching it, and that are watching live and that will watch later on YouTube, to kind of get a feel for how this works. So Dave, have at it.
Okay, well, I don't know what it is that you're expecting.
Hamiet, you're next.
But I'll just sit here and talk about nothing. I guess we.
Tom,
could
you're
just
next.
Saying rhubarb.
Yeah,
Michael, you're next.
Here,
Okay, I'm playing a little
Mike, you're next.
Idiot.
Everybody
Ryan?
at the other end is a great show.
Ron?
You are listening to
Ken?
It's going good. It's going good.
And then me,
going
and
good.
then all of us are talking at the
That's
same
1, 2,
time.
3.
It's a
Now that is what I'm talking about.
cornucopia.
That is awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron.
That's
I don't
awesome.
even know.
Town hall kind of discussion.
We've even got polka music in the background. I mean, can it be any better than that? That looks like Mike, judging by the smile on his face.
Some original Cajun music.
Oh, is that Tom? Okay. All right, so that is a great illustration of the full duplex capability of vMix Call. The other thing that's worth noting on vMix Call is that each one of you can determine at least if you're using vMix on your end, you can determine what bandwidth you're going to send me, and I on my end can determine what bandwidth I'm going to send you. And the bandwidth, if a second person joins a call, it doesn't take away the bandwidth from the first person. That first person's bandwidth is locked in. Now, as we saw earlier, there may be some other constraints that force us to back off on the bandwidth, but the bandwidth is never shared in that sense. Now, if you're calling in using Chrome or Firefox or Microsoft Edge browser, the browser will negotiate the available bandwidth, and that's built into WebRTC. The way vMix prioritizes it is that obviously it's going to reduce the resolution as the bandwidth diminishes to the point where if there's hardly any bandwidth, it'll kill the video and prioritize the audio. So if you're making if you've got somebody with a questionable connection, you know that the fallback before the call gets lost completely is that at least there'll be audio. And so if you're doing something where you're interviewing a guest, and you've probably seen it on the major networks, that's when they flash up a picture of the guest, because at that point they only have the guest video, the guest audio, but no video. So keep a picture of your guest handy, and that will help bail you out in that kind of situation. Other questions? Comments?
I have a question for everybody.
Just
what is the farthest connection you've got with the vMix call?
What is the fastest connection?
Farthest, like how far?
Oh, the farthest. Okay, gotcha. I've spoken to Australia.
Russia.
Anybody else? Somebody was commenting they had spoken to Europe earlier.
Yeah.
I did
Russia,
Africa, but I
Romania,
could only
Iran.
get the audio, no video.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other way that
We've done a
vMix
lot of
call
stuff
works,
in Europe.
and Michael Graves knows more about this than I do, because this is his field. But the WebRTC technology that vMix call is built on actually negotiates a peer-to-peer connection. So even though a caller may be using vmixcall.com in their Google browser to connect, once they get that connection, googlecall.com, wherever that happens to, whatever server's hosting that gets out of the way, and vMix call tries to negotiate the connection that has the best bandwidth and the shortest number of hops, and that may change. That it's all continually dynamic. As I'm watching your latency here jump from, again, Dave in the hundreds to who is that? Ryan is in the 400s. And that just depends, probably in his case, as he's jumping from cell tower to cell tower. But frankly, my experience has been, if the internet connection is good, I've spoken to Tim at vMix, and we've had latency of 200-300 milliseconds. It's been really, really amazing. But I have spoken with people in, I guess it was Indonesia, and it was horrible. It was like 5 seconds, and again, it has to do with the internet connection. And I've understood that some parts of the world simply can't talk to other parts of the world. The internet doesn't go between those places. Good question, Mike. You had a question too, or a comment?
Yeah, no, I just had a comment, Tom. You mentioned Microsoft Edge before. I've never had success in connecting a vMix call through Edge. Maybe it works, but I just haven't had success with that particular browser. Only Firefox and Chrome, and also Safari when someone's using a Mac. That's been my experience. And then
I think you're right.
I was just going to comment on was that you mentioned earlier about the full duplex capability that we demonstrated, and you also mentioned that as more callers join, you're not degrading the quality of the incoming video from those other callers. And those are two amazing features for vMix Call from my perspective, because I was using another live streaming software prior to switching to vMix, and their WebRTC technology, their version of it does it degrades the video bandwidth as more callers join by design. That's just the way they've designed it, and they don't have full duplex audio. So to me, those are two big points of difference from my experience with vMix Call.
Very good. Very good. Michael Graves just put into the chat that Chrome is the reference platform for WebRTC applications. I had a situation, I guess it was the end of last week, with a client that was trying to get a guest into a vMix production from a corporate office. And they weren't getting squat because the guy was behind a firewall. And, you know, their IT department was sort of like, okay, well, we'll try to do what we can. And they opened up some ports and nothing happened. And then I remembered, because I'm not good at this the first time around. No, actually, I'm pretty good at it. I remembered right away. And sent them the knowledge base article on the vMix website about vMix Call and firewalls. And it had the appropriate jargon on there. Once the IT department got it, they were able to open up the firewall in the exact same place that it needed to be done. And they had a connection in less than 2 minutes. So number one, that's a shout out for the vMix knowledge base. There's a lot of good stuff there. So if you're in a problem, have a go with that. And number two, you know, you can get around firewall problems, at least most of them, so far as I can tell. Yes, Ken, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a comment more than a question. I've had real good luck at getting FaceTime to come into vMix. I run the audio through a Rodecaster Pro, and then the HDMI output on the iPhone goes through a little capture card and into the computer, and boy, it's just real solid. Tried that out over at the NAB show with the girls over at X Keys, and we were over before you started your spiel, for lack of a better word, and it worked out really good.
Would you consider coming on Streaming Idiot Show one day and let's talk about that?
Sure.
All right. All right. Yeah. I mean, you know, here I'm asking you in front of 500,000 people, so you have to say yes.
Like he's going to say no.
Yeah, that's
no pressure.
Right. No pressure. No pressure. No pressure. Yeah. Jan and Kenny are exchanging notes back in the chat room. Kenny wants to know if all of the vMix calls go through a server in California, and Jan said that is indeed only for the initial handshake, and that after that it becomes a peer-to-peer connection, which is the most efficient way to get those two people together in one place at one time. Other questions and comments? All right, Kent has got a question here. Kent is Fiat Ministry Network in the chat, and he says, are there any variables that I need to look at with just a recording of 3 vMix calls? That is, not doing streaming, taking 3 vMix calls in. What kinds of things does he need to look out for in that situation? Anybody been in that situation before? 3 vMix calls. Mike, I see your brow kind of furrowed on that one. Hamiet, you've got experience with that?
Oh no, I only have the version with only 2 calls. So
Okay.
I have the 4K.
Yeah, I've recorded, I don't know, I think 2 calls with vMix Call, as well as like 2 people coming in from Zoom. So I think I had 4 people on at one time, and I was recording that, and it worked fine. I mean, again, it just comes down to testing to make sure, I think, from my experience, you know, you have sufficient GPU and CPU and, you know, an SSD drive to record it on, but I didn't have any issues with it.
How hard was it to get the audio from two Zoom callers in there, Mike? Can't hear you, Mike.
Yeah, I can hear you.
He's fiddling with that microphone. He turned that sucker off and he didn't even realize it.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Nope.
I thought it was a milkshake cup.
All right, Mike's going to work on that one. Ken, what's up?
Has anyone ever tried the ISO quarter in the versions of 4K and Pro? Because they can do isolation recordings. I did this for a short film that I was doing. They wanted the final mix stuff and the ISOs on all the cameras, and so I just gave them that on a flash drive, and they needed it for backup.
That's pretty cool. Did you do the ISOs to a solid state drive, or did you use a platter drive for that?
Yeah, one all to a solid state drive. Worked out great.
So you sent all five, the output and 4 cameras, to the same solid state drive?
You bet.
Wow, impressive. Impressive. I like it.
It seemed to work. It was running 1080p 30.
All right. Oh, well, there's a lull in the action. If any of you, probably not you guys, but any folks watching are interested, we are putting together a series of vMix-oriented classes for the fall, online classes. They'll be running 4 to 6 weeks in the afternoons and evenings. We put a poll out on the Streaming Idiots group on Facebook. If you haven't seen it, you might want to take a look and kind of log in what you'd like to see. Some of the other options included instant replay, vMix for beginners, for novices, advanced vMix, building your own studio, designing and developing the workflow for a talk show, and I think there were a couple other topics. You might want to give that a look, and if you're interested in that subject, in any of those subjects, definitely log in on that, and we'll get back to you. I'm really excited that TJ Thompson is going to be teaching the vMix Instant Replay class. For those of you that don't know TJ, TJ has worked with the TriCaster 3 Play professionally for a number of years, and now, if he's not out on his own, he's out in a smaller company, and discovered that, hey, vMix can do 95% for about 5% of the cost. And so he's going to come share with us all of his knowledge, probably not all of it, but a ton of it, in an instant replay class. He's also worked very closely with PI Engineering, the folks that make the X keys, on using their current jog shuttle controller, and has helped them develop a new controller that'll be coming out in September or October. Nope, somebody's got some static going there. Somebody that doesn't like X keys, that's what it was. Anyway, there's a new controller that'll be coming out that has the jog shuttle and a T-bar. Ken, question, comment?
Yeah, I should probably direct it towards Paul and those guys over there, but they came out with a video a couple days ago that showed the new X keys with the jog shuttle and the T-bar, and they were stepping through the instant replay with the T-bar instead of the jog shuttle. Is there a technical reason for that?
Ken, I think you and I saw the same one. I think they were using the T-bar to control the speed. And so the up position of the T-bar was 100%, and as they pulled it towards them, it got slower and slower. Ryan's nodding his head. He saw that's what he saw too. And that's going to come out in 2 different versions. Yeah, the outer ring was the fast ring, and the inner ring was the frame by frame advance or backwards. It'll come out in a version that was very similar to what you saw in that video, I think that'll be about $900, and then there'll be kind of a do-it-yourselfer where you can do all the buttons you want, and that'll be about $8.25, somewhere in that frame. But we're working with
Did he say they were going to have that out before the sports season?
Say again, Ryan.
Did they say if they were going to have that out before fall sports to get tested and trained up on it?
The anticipated ship date is August or September, but they've been fighting this design for a while, so it's possible that that's going to be delayed. But the folks that take our class on instant replay will get a discount on that controller if they're interested in it. We're working on that right now. In fact, the existing jog shuttle controller, which I think is a little less expensive, and then the new jog shuttle with the T-bar, we'll have special pricing on those for the folks that take the instant replay class. Michael Graves has got to leave us. Hamiet, go ahead.
Will you consider having vMix call as a separate course?
We could do that.
Part of
Sure.
the training that you do? Yeah.
We could do that. Probably
I'll be
wouldn't take
interested in
4 to
that.
6 weeks. Probably could do that in a couple of sessions. That's be good. Thank you. That's good input.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, I don't know if you can hear me now or not.
Yes.
I'm just using the built-in mic on my laptop. Looks like my Snowball died. I haven't used that in a long time. Anyway, back to your question about routing, audio routing. When I'm bringing in 2 Zoom calls and 2 vMix calls simultaneously, the Zoom calls come in as one audio source because Zoom does its own mix minus, I believe. And so, so the Zoom source, I bring that in as one audio source using a virtual audio cable. And let's say channel, and I use channel A, the audio channel A for that. And then with the vMix callers, I just make sure we're sending their audio not only to master, but also to channel A. And then with the Zoom caller, it just comes in and I make sure it's going to master, which is what all the Zoom callers are receiving, and it works fine.
So in that sense, Mike, you could have 1 Zoom caller or you could have 5 Zoom callers. It wouldn't matter.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, the only downside from my experience with having multiple Zoom callers is if they drop off the screen from a video perspective, then it resets the canvas, with the remaining callers. So that's a big risk with Zoom. But, I have multiple monitors, so if I pin each guest to one monitor, then I don't know, I haven't really tested it to see if one of them drops off, if that screws up that. But I prefer to use vMix call, but I only have the 4K version, so I can only bring in 2 people by vMix call.
I know a vMix reseller that can help you make an upgrade on that, by the way. Ryan, there's
I might add.
Who's that guy?
yeah, thank you. Ryan, there's a question for you in the chat. If you can name the brand of the in-ear monitor that you're using.
Oh, yes. Well, there's 2 that I really like that are cost effective. Galaxy Audio, and there's another company called CAD, C-A-D. And either one of those have been really fantastic. We have both of them in service at our church, and then I have one at the studio.
So that's Galaxy Audio, and then the second one was CAD, C-A-D. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Got it. Okay, good. And you said ballpark, it was about $300 per ear.
Yeah, CAD actually used to be $199, and then they got bought out by another company, and now I think they're $399. And I think maybe Galaxy fluctuates between $299 and $399 based on what special's going on.
Gotcha. All right, good question. Thank you for the answer. Kent has got a follow-up question on his vMix call question. He says, would it make more sense to upgrade to vMix Pro on one per PC, or does it work if we upgrade to vMix HD on a second machine? Kent, that's a really good question because it really does bring into play the exchange of audio. And that's why I'd hope to bring in a caller from a second PC today The trick there is to get the mix minus correct. So I'd like to explore that in a little bit more depth, but not here, not now. Any other questions or comments? You guys have been really gracious, and I don't want to impose on your time any longer. It's like, oh yeah, can you show up and be on this show for a few minutes so that we can demonstrate that? And it's like, okay, now I'm here. How the heck do I get out of here? It's like volunteering at a church. You know, when you volunteer at a church, there are only two ways to get out of that job. One is to leave and go find another church. The other is to die. I mean, that's it. Otherwise, you're just stuck in that job forever. So you're not stuck in this job forever. We're winding this up. Any closing comments from anybody? Any closing questions before we wrap it up? Dave is back, I see.
I have something totally unrelated.
But of course.
Any PTC optics camera experts out there? I'm experiencing an arm error when bringing the camera in via RTSP into vMix. That's where I
arm error?
No, as in a processor. ARM. A-R-M.
ARM. Have you done a
That's all
factory
it says
reset?
is arm error. I don't know how to do a factory reset on that sucker. Never done one before.
It's very simple. Get your handheld remote control.
Okay.
And press the star button, the pound button,
Okay.
and
Okay.
the manual button. Star, pound, manual. And that will take it back to factory
I'm
fresh
assuming
settings.
That's which means that DHCP will be disabled.
Correct.
Correct.
Whatever factory, the IP address will go back to 192.168.100.88, and everything else will be
Which doesn't
as
work
per the
at all
factory.
with anything we're doing here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we'll have to go back in and set that back once we get
Right.
that done.
Right.
Okay. Well, there we go. We'll see what
I
happens.
think Ken has something to offer on that one.
I've talked to Matt over at PCC Optics, their chief engineer, and they said try to keep up on the firmware because they updated it every 3 to 4 weeks.
Really? Interesting. So finally, they're going to enable that
Brand-
built-in coffee maker. I can't wait.
Yeah. That's it.
All right, sir. Very good. Well, gentlemen, thank you. Ryan, is that a question, or are you waving goodbye?
Well, no, I was just going to say Star 4, I think, has done something for me for Dave where I was having a couple issues. And I forget what it maybe it's Star Pound 4. Whatever it was, it completely reset what was happening. I was having a shutter issue, but it basically reset the camera without going back to factory settings.
The owner's manual has a series of about 5 or 6 different star pound combinations that will do various things, that will turn off and on different settings. So the remote control is really, really handy for that. It's just a matter of, writing them out in white ink on the back of the remote so that you've got them there whenever you need them. Good comment. Ken, last comment, Ken. Take us away.
I'm on a quota? Okay. I ran into a problem with my PTZs where I was trying to use them outside, and it was just way washed out picture. And the only way I could solve that was use the remote, like you've got in your hand, Tom, and actually set the flicker reduction off. That's the only way it worked.
That is the approved method from what I hear. Yep. I can't wait to try it in an outside environment. All right, gentlemen. Well, I do appreciate all of you so very much. And, we were going to have a prize today. But I got to find the answer. So hang on. Give me 1 second, because you guys can get in on the prize.
What about
Yeah.
a prize for who's been using vMix the longest?
I know,
How about a
right?
prize for the person that's been in vMix the shortest?
That's better.
I came for the door prizes.
All right, hold on a second. We got to.
Yeah, don't let the door hit you on the way out, Mike.
Oops. Wouldn't be the first time I was told that.
One second. I gotta look. I gotta look up the answer. Okay. Here's the question, and we're going to take one winner from the live audience here, and one winner from the chat room. What version? And this is basically a timed play. So whoever raises their hand first gets to answer first here, and then whoever has the answer in the chat room just has to blurt it out. What version of vMix was vMix Call introduced in? Mike,
17.
19?
what did you say, Mike?
19?
19 is correct. All right, Mike wins a. I should have told you what you were going to win. You win your choice of a vMix Basic HD package, or a vMix upgrade of the same value, or a $60 credit to any vMix upgrade, like upgrade to Pro, that you want to do in the future. So stick that one in your
I gotta
back
think
pocket.
about that. Thank you.
There you go. And John
Nice
Thompson.
prize. Thank you.
John Thompson wins the same thing in the chat. So, John, if you will shoot me an email, tom@easternshorebroadcasting.com, and let me know what you'd like as your prize, we will make that true. And, Mike, if you would shoot me a PM or an email so that I've got yours at the top of the list, we will get that to you. And we actually have a really cool prize for next week, so that's going to be fun. Only one right answer in the chat. Okay, Pastor Herman says vMix 13. That would have been nice to have had it along that line. All right, guys, I'm cutting you loose now. So, thank you again so much for taking time out today, folks in chat. Hang around with me for just a second, but we're going to let these guys go because they were really friendly and helpful, and so we're just going to cut them off the knees. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. So there we go. So we got rid of those guys, and we're just going to have to kind of go through and mute their audios. I did have a button for that, but apparently I reprogrammed it for something else. As you can see, we're not in the studio part of the studio today. We're in the control part of the studio, because all of the setup time prior to the show was spent getting everybody in the right place. But I do want to give a shout out again to Dave and Hamyet and Mike and Michael and Ron and oh golly, now my memory's beginning to fade on me. Ken, yeah, Ken's pointing to himself. Don't forget about Ken and Tom. And if you're a prayer, we want you to shoot up a prayer for Tom Boudreau, that he recover from his automobile accident pretty quickly, and that the culprits that caused it, that did a hit and run, are brought to justice. That's important too. Final notes. Of course, we are a vMix reseller. We're a reseller for PTZ optics cameras and X keys and Magewell and Uon and Bird Dog and all sorts of cool stuff. So if you're interested in live streaming gear, we've got it in our store at easternshorebroadcasting.com. We design and build PCs for live streaming. So if you're interested in that, I would be happy to talk to you. We do a lot in the church field, in the sports field. We're doing a lot these days with digital signage and LED walls. So we've got a lot of knowledge in those areas, and happy to share that. Also, if you're interested in any of the classes coming up in the fall, in the instant replay class or any of the vMix classes, or the studio class, or the talk show class, or the church class, take a look on the Streaming Idiots group on Facebook. If you're not a member, join and go ahead and register your vote so that we can begin to get those classes organized and organized correctly. Again, a big shout out to our guys today. Thanks so much for tuning in. And we will see all of you next week on Streaming Idiots. Now, this time, we didn't get to do it at the beginning of the show, but we are going to go out with the official exit strategy. So we got to find our X keys so that we can push the button. Here we go. All right. See you guys next week.